Hey everybody, this is Drew with Project Nerd here. Speaking with
Michael Boran with Rodents of Unusual Size.
Perfect, and we're at Tallgrass Film Festival in 2018. Do you want to give us a quick synopsis of Rodents of Unusual Size? It kind of seems like it should be self-explanatory, but some people might
It's
not know.
actually it doesn't explain itself very well. You know, I mean, sure, we're talking about these big, huge 20-pound swamp rats, but the film itself is about people and the culture of South Louisiana and how these people have faced peril every year from hurricanes and floods, and how this 20-pound rat is making their life more difficult in general.
That's That seems like it's more heartfelt than you would think it is. Kind of a heartfelt tale. So, what is your role in? I noticed you have a production team shirt on. What is your role in the film?
Well, so interestingly enough, with this particular film, I am subject matter in the film. However, I fell in love with the trio, Chris and Quinn and Jeff, and they pulled me into their flock and started working on the film itself. I did a lot of set acquisition, and specifically I did a lot of set design for a lot of the tunnel systems so that you can see these creatures underground, where they tunnel. But, I've got a love for film and movies and commercials, and a love for animals, and I've been able to build a career around all of that.
That's one of those things that you don't think of. The tunnel systems for like to be able to see these animals, in action of sorts. So, what was that like? What went into designing those? Just kind of making it to where it's kind of like what they would see in natural habitats.
So one of the difficult things about this particular creature is that they tunnel into the levees and the canal banks of South Louisiana. And when they tunnel in, they hear each other tunneling and they connect the tunnels. And so you've got this underground labyrinth of tunnel systems. And when there's a flooding event, like a hurricane or a huge storm, you have all this hydrostatic pressure of the increased water pushing against the levees. And if it pushes hard enough, the water blows out these tunnels on the other side, and the whole levee collapses, and you have billions of gallons of water rush into a residential neighborhood, and that's why people drown so quickly.
Oh, so they're almost a cause of some of those floods in those areas is because they're creating their own habitats and just trying to go about living their lives, and then you have those floods or anything like that. That's interesting stuff.
Yeah,
there.
it's actually the destruction that the creature causes is twofold. So the canals and the levees and the collapse of those affects the rural and the urban areas more than the rural areas. When you go way down to the coastline, these creatures eat the vegetation down to the root systems, and so the soil washes away and converts to open water. And when a storm surge comes in, there's nothing to stop it, and so it just comes in. For every mile of coastal wetlands, the storm surge is reduced by about a foot.
Wow.
And so the more land you lose, the more that converts to open water, the further inland that storm surge can come, and the further inland that water floods.
That's geographical knowledge for you guys there. So when you made the film, or when you're making the film, and you're taking part in these things, when you interact with these animals and stuff, is that something, or I guess, do you interact with the animals, hand to hand there? Is it kind of in that realm of a film?
It is, and like I said, my position in this particular film is very unique because I was subject matter. I was actually, when they found me, Tilapia Films, the guys that put this together, when they found me, I was working a contract with the city of New Orleans to physically remove these creatures from the canals. And so I was working that, and then towards the end of, and it took us 4 years to film this film, towards the end of it, when we needed more of the Nutria creature itself in the film, then I became an animal handler, which is what I do. You know, I rescue people from wild animals, and I train movie animals, you know, that sort of thing.
So what's the array of animals that you've trained for movies? I mean, obviously.
Everything from, so I've done a lot of work with a lot of well-known films, but everything from, I've got a whole collection of rattlesnakes that I have trained, all the unique native species of rattlesnakes and some non-native species. Some of the non-native species are just cooler, you know, in appearance, but everything from rattlesnakes to eagle, owls, falcons, hawks. I'm a master falconer as well. Wow. And so I train these birds of prey, but everything in between. The only thing I haven't trained is large mammals like rhinos and bears, and wolves. I've worked with wolves, I just haven't trained them.
I've worked with wolves too. I do dog fencing, so
nice.
Underground dog fencing, and people in rural areas they can have wolves, and you know, so that was the coolest experience I've ever had with animals. So I'm glad I can touch on that. But so when you become the, you know, sort of the animal handler for the film, when things like that kind of take that turn, how does that affect you doing that job, as far as, you know, removing the animals? Instead of removing them, you're kind of corralling them and stuff like that to keep them, you know, contained for the film.
So it's a twofold type thing. If we talk about the Nutria for this film, we were using some wild animals in a lot of the different sequences, but for the very, very difficult sequences, a very good friend of mine at Milliken Movie Animals had recently rescued a young nutria that its parents had been run over by a vehicle. And so this nutria, her name is Nudie. She has her own Facebook page.
Nice.
She became our very malleable actress within a lot of the different scenes that were very, very complex and intricate in detail.
So obviously, rodents of unusual size. How big do these nutrias get? I mean, they're...
So on average, they're a 25-pound semi-aquatic rodent. That's average. They never stop growing. Luckily, their life expectancy is not that long, like 5-7 years, and then something's going to kill them or eat them, you know. They were originally brought to New Orleans and to Louisiana in the 30s and 40s as food and fur, you know. And so the size is, because they're from Argentina originally, but the size was very sought after because their replacement was a native species called a muskrat. Well, a muskrat's only about this big, about 2 pounds. These guys are 25 pounds. So a muskrat, you might need 30 to make a coat, but with a nutria, you only need 10. So that was the whole allure in bringing them to Louisiana in the first place.
And so when you say they were brought in for food as well, I mean, obviously, is that food for humans, or is that a human consumption?
Oh, yeah. So nutria, so I am from Louisiana, and nutria is excellent. I mean, it's very good eating.
A delicacy.
It is.
Yeah. So, you know, do you guys have any sort of social media that you guys like to plug as far as the movie is concerned?
Absolutely. So all of our upcoming screenings are on rodentsofunusualsize.tv, okay? And PBS has picked up, Independent Lens is going to be showing us in January. And then we've got a little bit left. We're trying to get 100 film festivals in, and I think we're going to meet that.
Yeah, right by the end of the year?
Right by the end of
Perfect.
the year.
So, and then as far as you or do you have anything that you like to plug?
Yeah, absolutely. So my company, Wildlife Command Center, I actually run an office here in Wichita, Kansas. And so my guys are watching the screening of the film right now, and they're all excited about it. But, you know, we try to interact and help humans deal with wild animals in their homes. And so having that, and we try to make it a win-win situation so that the animal wins and the person that owns the home wins.
That's awesome. Well, I thank you for sitting down with us here. And do you enjoying Tallgrass so far?
Oh, yeah. This definitely is a partying film festival. I mean, everybody is so nice and accommodating, and there's like I'm getting text messages constantly. This is coming up next. This is coming up next, and it doesn't stop till like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, they're doing karaoke at our hotel.
I'm gonna be there.
What, 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
So we'll see you around.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for the interview.